Hello.
Doctor, good evening.
Good evening. Video off.
എന്റെ വീഡിയോ ഓഫ് ആണ്. അത് എന്ത് പറ്റുന്നറിയില്ല. എനിക്ക് എന്തോ ചെറിയൊരു ഇഷ്യൂ ഉണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഫേസ് വരുന്നില്ല. ഞാൻ അത് കറക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ നോക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക.
മറ്റേ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തോ? ഇല്ലല്ലോ.
ഇല്ല, വേറെ ആരും ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല. ഒരു മിനിറ്റ് ഞാൻ നോക്കട്ടെ. സ്പീക്കർ
ഒരു സെക്കൻഡ്. ഞാനിപ്പോ പുള്ളിക്കാരി ഒന്ന് വിളിക്കാം.
ഓക്കെ.
നമുക്ക് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാമെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. ടൈം ആയിട്ടുണ്ട്.
നമുക്ക് അത്യാവശ്യം കാൻഡിഡേറ്റ്സും ആയിട്ടുണ്ട് സാറേ. നമുക്ക് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാമെന്നാ. ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടല്ലോ.
ശ്യാം സർ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടോ?
ഉണ്ടല്ലോ.
അങ്ങനെയാണ് ശ്യാമിനെ ഒന്ന് പാനലിസ്റ്റ് ആക്കിയേക്കണേ.
കാണുന്നില്ലല്ലോ ഡോക്ടറെ.
കുറച്ചു മുമ്പ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഒരു സെക്കൻഡ് നോക്കട്ടെ. അയ്യോ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഇപ്പൊ കുറച്ചു മുമ്പ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു ഇപ്പൊ സുനിൽ സാറേ ശ്യാം സാറിന്റെ അടുത്ത് ഒന്ന് പറയുമോ? അതോ
ശ്യാം സാറിന്റെ അടുത്ത് പറഞ്ഞോളൂ.
ഇപ്പൊ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു.
എനിക്ക് അറ്റ്ലീസ്റ്റ് ലിസ്റ്റേ കാണാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് എനിക്ക് അറിയത്തില്ല ആരൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടെന്ന്.
ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ.
ഇല്ല ഡോക്ടർ ശ്യാം ഇല്ല, വന്നിട്ടില്ല.
ഞാൻ ഒന്ന് മെസ്സേജ് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കാം. സാറേ CD പ്രോഗ്രാം ഇപ്പൊ തുടങ്ങുമായിരുന്നു. സാറ് പാനലിസ്റ്റ് ആക്കാനായിട്ട് ഇപ്പൊ നോക്കിയപ്പോ സാറിന് കാണുന്നില്ല. സാർ ഒന്ന് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യോ? അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ പാനലിസ്റ്റ് ആക്കിയിട്ട് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യായിരുന്നു.
ശ്യാം, നമ്മള് ഡിലേ ആക്കാതെ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നതാണ് നല്ലത്. ലേറ്റ് ആയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ദീപക്, ശ്യാം വന്നോ?
ഇല്ല ഇല്ല ഡോക്ടറെ, വന്നിട്ടില്ല.
എന്നാ നമുക്ക് ദീപക് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാം.
ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ സാർ, സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാം. ഞാൻ ശ്യാം സാറിന് മെസ്സേജ് ചെയ്തു. ഞാൻ സാർ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യുമായിരിക്കും, കുഴപ്പമില്ല.
Okay. I welcome you all to our own first CD, especially on the International Oral Pathology Day. Thank you, Mahija ma'am, for accepting our invitation. And Mahija ma'am is our own member. I invite you all to the first CD of Smart City branch. I request Dr. Vidhu Anthony to please introduce this guest.
Thank you, Sunil sir. I welcome you all for today's webinar on the topic Oral Pathology for Clinical Practice. The speaker for today's session is our very own Dr. Mahija Janardhanan. Dr. Mahija, she finished her BDS from Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Dental Science in the year 1997 and MDS from the same college in the year 2003. She has a teaching experience of 17 years in Amrita School of Dentistry, Kochi, and is still continuing with great vigor. Coming to the achievements, Dr. Mahija has been awarded with the Best Paper Guidance in the year 2012 and 2013. Also, she has secured first place in scientific quiz on oral cytology and cytogenetics. I welcome you, ma'am, for today's session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. That was a sweet introduction. Can I share the screen now?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So at the outset, let me thank Dr. Sunil Alexander and Dr. Deepak for this wonderful platform. I'm indeed very happy and privileged to be here, that too on National Oral Pathologist Day. So a correct diagnosis is 3/4 the remedy. So as a diagnostic specialty of dentistry, pathology is a science which bridges basic sciences with the clinical sciences. But unfortunately, in most of our dental school, this subject remains a basic science, and most of the students are not exposed to the clinical implications of pathology. We don't realize this until one fine evening, a patient walks into our clinic saying that I've got a lesion in the tongue. And we are like, oops, what am I to do now? So this presentation, titled Oral Pathology for Clinical Practice, is intended to give you an overview on the common oral lesions you might encounter in your dental clinic, how to identify a lesion or narrow differential diagnosis for oral diseases seen in daily practice, how and where to take a biopsy from, and what to do with the biopsy specimen. So the first step for identifying any abnormality is to know what is normal. So let me take you to the area which we are all familiar with, that's the oral cavity. Oral cavity, all of you know, it's lined by a thin, moist membrane. We call it oral mucosa. And this oral mucosa consists of two components, the epithelium and the connective tissue. The epithelium, in turn, consists of many layers of squamous cells which are arranged in an orderly pattern.
ഡോക്ടർ ഒന്ന് അൺമ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യണായിരിക്കും, കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല.
Okay. You can see the screen, right?
ഇല്ല, സ്ക്രീൻ ഷെയർ ആയിട്ടില്ല ഡോക്ടറെ.
I think there was some issue with the connectivity. Let me share it again.
Okay, sure. ഓപ്പൺ ആയിട്ടില്ല കേട്ടോ മാം. നമ്മളെ ഫോൾഡർ മാത്രമേ കാണുന്നുള്ളൂ നേരത്തെ പോലെ.
Okay. Second. Share screen. Can see this now?
Yes, yeah.
You can see this, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Small. Okay. It's not going to the. Can you see the screen?
Yes, doctor, we can. Yeah.
But it's not in the slideshow, right?
Allalla. PowerPoint.
Okay, fine. So, okay, fine. Okay, so we were discussing about the clinical aspects of oral mucosa. The oral mucosa appears to be red, and the red color is actually the color which is imparted by the connective tissue. And texture-wise, if you look at, it's uniformly smooth, except in few areas like palatal rugae or the tongue, where you see some irregularities. Apart from that, sometimes you might see some irregular areas in the oral mucosa, like linea alba. Linea alba, you all of you know, it's a white line seen in the buccal mucosa, extending from the retromolar region to the corner of the mouth, in line with the occlusal plane. And then leukedema. Leukedema is again a white lesion, white translucent area, which might disappear on stretching of the mucosa. And you also sometimes see some yellowish nodules in the mucosa. This is nothing but Fordyce granules. They are ectopic sebaceous glands which are placed in the mucosa. So these are considered as a normal variation. Apart from this, if you see any variation in the mucosa, you can treat it as an abnormality. So now coming to the mucosal pathology. When we talk about mucosal pathology can either arise from the epithelium or from the connective tissue. Now, let's have a look at the lesions of the epithelial origin. Already we have seen that the mucosa is a stratified squamous epithelium. So at functional point of view, if you look at epithelium, the epithelium has got a basal layer, whose function is division. It goes on dividing. Then you have a maturing compartment above it. So the cell which is dividing at the base, as it matures, it moves to the maturing compartment, and as it becomes older, it goes upwards. It moves upwards. And finally, as it reaches the top layer, it dies off and exfoliates into the oral cavity. That's the normal process which is going on. And this is what is known as epithelial renewal. So for every cell which is lost from the surface, one cell will be added from the base. That way, the epithelium is, the proliferation of the epithelium is tightly regulated. And there's a balance between the number of cell which is lost from the surface and the number of cell which is added from the base. That way, the thickness of the epithelium is always maintained. For example, if this tissue block has around 1,000 cells, this number will be retained throughout. But this is actually maintained by the balance between the cell which is lost from the surface and the cell which are added from the base. But in certain situations, this balance might be lost. And in such situations, you might see atrophy of the epithelium. Atrophy means the epithelial thickness will reduce. There is thin epithelium only here. Or sometimes you can have situations where there is excessive proliferation of the epithelium and the thickness increases. The term which we use for that is hyperplasia. And again, you might see some situations where the epithelium retains the thickness, but there is excessive keratinization. So what I can see here is a variation in the thickness of the epithelium. So variation in the thickness of the epithelium could result in variation in the color. So I said the color of the epithelium is the color of the connective tissue, which is seen through the epithelium, right? So when there is epithelial hyperplasia or hyperkeratinization, we won't be able to see the connective tissue that much. So it will lead to a white lesion in the oral mucosa. And the reverse happens when there is epithelial atrophy and there is thinning of the epithelium. You'll be able to see more of the connective tissue underlying it, and the mucosa will appear red in color. Similarly, there are situations where The melanocyte is a component of the epithelial layer, and sometimes you can have increased proliferation or stimulation of the melanocyte, resulting in pigmented lesion. So variation in color, which you come across in the buccal mucosa or anywhere in the oral mucosa, could be an indicator of epithelial abnormality. Again, an epithelial abnormality can also lead to variation in the texture. So as you can see here, sometimes what happens is that the epithelium, there will be a focal proliferation in the epithelium. So this focal proliferation will be occurring in an irregular fashion, and as a result, you will have papillary surface. You will see papillary surface. So a swelling with papillary surface is indicative of an epithelial lesion. And sometimes, instead of growing outwards like this, the epithelium can also grow inwards. As it grows inwards, it can ulcerate. It can undergo ulceration, as in the case of squamous cell carcinoma. In squamous cell carcinoma, this is what happens. The epithelium grows inwards, resulting in ulcer formation. And here, as you can see here, sometimes what happens is that within the epithelium, fluid accumulation occurs, and you can have a vesicle forming within the epithelium. So putting together all this, diseases of epithelial origin can be classified into red and white lesion, pigmented lesion, swellings, mostly papillary growth, ulcers, and vesiculobullous lesion. Now coming to the connective tissue is little more complex than the epithelium in that you have different types of tissues. As I said before, you have collagen, you have blood vessel, you have nerve, you have adipocytes, you have salivary acini, you have muscle layer. So what happens is that in a reactive or neoplastic proliferation of any of these components can result in the formation of a swelling. And this swelling is very much different from the swelling which you see from the epithelium. The epithelial swellings mostly will be showing papillary surface, whereas here, if the reactive proliferation occur in the connective tissue, it is present a little deep into the tissue, right? So you have an intact epithelium overlying it. So it will result in the formation of a smooth surface swelling. So smooth surface swelling is usually indicative of a connective tissue lesion. So now, how do we diagnose a lesion? So you can follow this diagnostic algorithm, the 6 C's of diagnosis. So now you have a collection of diseases in hand. You have epithelial lesions, you have connective tissue lesions. Now, when a patient comes to you, you try to include that particular lesion into any of these categories. You try to find out whether it's epithelial origin or connective tissue origin. If it is epithelial, is it red and white lesion? Is it vesiculobullous lesion? Is it papillary growth? Or whatever. So first you have a collection of disease, then you have to classify it. Once you classify it, you need to compare between the lesions. For example, if you're taking white lesions, you have a list of white lesions. You know a list of white lesions. You need to compare between these white lesions and come to a clinical diagnosis. And clinical diagnosis always need to be supported by your investigations, which include your imaging studies as well as biopsy, to reach a conclusive diagnosis. This is a simple thing. We all follow this normally, but this is what happens when you reach a diagnosis. Now let's look at a few lesions which are quite common in practice. You might come across some of these lesions at least in your daily practice. So this is the clinical situation. 1, this is a tongue. You can see that there are white lesions on the tongue, and you can see some red areas also. So how do we proceed with? If a patient comes to you like this, how do you proceed with? So first thing is you need to know whether the lesion is scrapable or not. Maybe when you start seeing cases like this, you need to really scrape it to know that it's scrapable. But as you see more cases, from the inspection itself, you'll be able to say that this is scrapable. Right? Then this scraping, you take a bit of the scraping, make a smear, send it to the lab. There we'll stain it and look for the presence of hyphae. So here you can see the fungal hyphae. These are the fungal hyphae. If you're able to see this fungal hyphae, this could be candidiasis. If there are no hyphae, you need to take a proper history to rule out any chemical or thermal bone Chemical or thermal burn can result in the formation of pseudomembrane, which also is scrapable. If not, it could be infection. Infections like diphtheria or syphilis can also present as a pseudomembranous lesion. So you need to do, in such cases, you need to do special investigation for specific for diphtheria or syphilis. Now, clinical situation 2, all candidiasis are not scrapable. You have a separate type of special type of candidiasis, chronic hyperplastic candidiasis, which is non-scrapable. So it usually presents as a white lesion, curdy white lesion, most commonly seen in the buccal mucosa. So here, for a diagnosis, for an accurate diagnosis, you need to do a biopsy. Okay, you need to do a biopsy and you need to know where to take a biopsy from. If you're suspecting candidiasis, chronic hyperplastic candidiasis, you need to take the biopsy from the whitest of the area, white area. Okay, and in the tissue sections, we'll be able to demonstrate candida. So you can see some strands here, right? This is a special stain which we have used. It's a PAS stain. Okay, PAS stains carbohydrate. So the fungal hyphae will be stained by PAS, and positive hyphae will look magenta in color. So the message is all candidiasis need not be scrapable. Now let's see the third clinical situation. So again, you are seeing a white lesion over here, right? White lesion with some areas of erosion in between. So would you like to do biopsy here in this case? No, here you have a, why you don't do a biopsy? Because you have a source of trauma here. The patient has got some orthodontic brands. So from the clinical examination itself, it is pretty obvious that the trauma or this lesion, white lesion, is caused because of the trauma from the orthodontic wires. So what we're looking at is a traumatic keratosis. In the case of traumatic keratosis, you need not do a biopsy. You just need to relieve the trauma. Wires always, it could be a faulty restoration, or it could be a carious tooth also sometimes. So the message here is a white lesion always need not be biopsied. So this is the clinical situation 4. Here you have white areas, you have red areas. Which area will you take a biopsy from? So here, I would like to stress the relevance of having a diagnosis with you before deciding a biopsy. Because without having any idea about biopsy, you won't be able to, the diagnosis, you won't be able to take a biopsy. So here is a clue. You're seeing something over here, right? Some white reticular pattern. That is a diagnostic clue. So let me, okay. Here you can see that white reticular pattern. This is the clue for diagnosis. This indicates that they are lichenoid lesions. You have a group of lesions which are categorized as lichenoid lesions, and common ones are oral lichen planus, lichenoid reactions, discoid or systemic lupus erythematosus, and graft versus host disease. All these diseases, they have the similar pathogenic mechanism. And the pathogenic mechanism involved is a cell-mediated immune response against some antigenic peptide. So because of the same pathogenic mechanism, all these lesions will show similar clinical and histopathological picture. But since each lesion is different and each lesion requires a different treatment, we need to differentiate it. So now, most common among this group of lesion is lichen planus. All of you would have seen at least one case in your clinic, a case of lichen planus in your clinic. So lichen planus can manifest in different ways. You have reticular pattern, you have papular ones, you have erosive ones, you have bullous ones, atrophic ones, and plaque-like ones. But irrespective of whatever pattern it is, somewhere in the periphery or somewhere you'll be able to make out this stripe. Okay, this reticular pattern will be somewhere, and that is very diagnostic of lichenoid lesions. And lichen planus usually can occur bilaterally and can sometimes be extensive also. If it is extensive, probably you need a biopsy to confirm the diagnosis. Now, in lichen planus, how do we pathologists diagnose it? What do we look for in the tissue sections? In the tissue sections, you would have learned, you will remember what you have learned in your third year: hyperkeratosis, sawtooth retirages, subepithelial inflammatory band, etc. But what we rely more here is this band. Here, this is the epithelium, and below which you have the connective tissue. And I seeing this blue band here, these are basically inflammatory cells. These are the lymphocyte. This is the subepithelial band which we learned in oral lichen planus in the third year. This is diagnostic. So you need to see this band to diagnose it as a lichen planus or lichenoid reaction or lichenoid lesions. And based on some subtle differences between these lichenoid lesions, we'll categorize them as lichen planus or graft versus host response or lichenoid reactions. So now we'll go back to the case which I showed you before. So where do we take a biopsy from? From the erosive area or from the white area? So if you take biopsy from the erosive areas, why is there an erosion? Erosion is there because you have epithelium only here. The epithelium in one area is peeled off. Okay, this is seen as erosive areas here. So when the epithelium, once the epithelium is peeled off, this connective tissue is exposed to the oral cavity. So there will be a lot of antigenic response, and in response to that, you get dense infiltrate of inflammatory cells here. And this inflammatory cells mask the band. We won't be able to make out the band, subepithelial band of inflammatory cells. So our diagnosis in such cases will be non-specific ulcer, which might not be of any use to the clinician. Clinician won't know what to do with this diagnosis. So now, if you take a biopsy from this reticular area, the peripheral area, we will get this pattern. You'll be able to appreciate the typical band of inflammatory infiltrate, and the diagnosis will be lichen planus. So the representative biopsy site in oral lichen planus or lichenoid lesions is the reticular area or white area, not the erosive area. Now we'll see the next clinical situations. In this case, where would you take a biopsy from? The white area or the erosive area? You have erosive areas, you have the white area. Where do we take a biopsy from? So now I would like to stress again, first thing what we look for is whether it's scrapable or not. So this case is not scrapable. Is there a source of trauma? No, that's no source of trauma. Reticular areas? No. So how do we go about? You need a diagnosis. So I would like to stress again the relevance of arriving at a single provisional diagnosis based on your clinical examination. So you need to have a provisional diagnosis to decide on where to take a biopsy from, and this where you take a biopsy from decides the accurate diagnosis. Now I will give you a clue regarding the diagnosis of this lesion. Eliminate all other factors, and the one which remains must be the truth. So you would have, you will remember that definition which you learned in your third year. That's a funny definition, of course. You rule out lichen planus, you rule out white spongy nevus, you rule out all the possible white lesions under the sun, and finally, what is left behind is leukoplakia. So a white patch or a plaque that cannot be characterized clinically or pathologically as any other disease. So the definition looks very simple, very easy to mug up and recollect. But when it comes to diagnosis, it's difficult because it is a diagnosis by exclusion of other known white lesion. That means you need to know about all the other white lesions, in and out about all the white lesions, finally to come to a diagnosis of leukoplakia. And leukoplakia is a purely a clinical diagnosis and not a histopathological one. A few words about leukoplakia. This is a pre-malignant lesion, and pre-malignancy is one area which we dentists need to be very careful about, and we have a bigger responsibility in diagnosing it, because most of the cases, as a specialist who observes the oral cavity, we are the one who get in touch with oral cavity of the patients. And most of the cases of oral cancer, early diagnosis, dentists will be able to help out in many cases. Now that oral cancer is the most common cancer among men, and the number of cases are also increasing, and the chances of you seeing a pre-malignant lesion or a malignancy oral cancer is very high nowadays. Now, when a normal cell becomes a cancer, it has to undergo a lot of mutations. It said that you need to have multiple mutation which occurs in a progressive sequence for a normal epithelium to transform into squamous cell carcinoma. So the epithelium goes in through hyperplasia, then through different stages of dysplasia, mild, moderate, and severe dysplasia, then carcinoma in situ, and finally to become squamous cell carcinoma. So dysplasia or abnormal proliferation is a pathologist scale to measure the malignant potential of pre-malignant lesions. So here, this is a normal epithelium. You can see the orderly arrangement of the epithelial cells here. In the case of dysplastic epithelium, this pattern is lost. So you can see here that is FSR proliferation over here. And if you see this corner, it is more, it's involving upper layers of epithelium also. Now, as the genetic mutation progresses, as I said, the epithelium becomes abnormal. It goes in through different stages of dysplasia and finally to malignancy. Correspondingly, the corresponding changes, it will be obvious clinically also. So we will be seeing the patient at the clinical level. So you should have a look at what happens in each stage of transformation. So here, it's normal mucosa. So it starts as a thin leukoplakia, which involves only a small area. Later, it becomes thicker leukoplakia. Then the surface becomes irregular, and then it undergo ulceration. So depending upon the stage at which you are seeing the lesion clinically, you will be able to say that whether the prognosis is good or bad. So which one is the most advanced stage? So this diagrammatic representation explains it better. So pale pink was the color of the mucosa, then it turns into gray, then surface becomes irregular. You can see a lot of granularity developing over it, and finally it becomes red in color. So redness or the granularity indicates the advanced stages of transformation, malignant transformation. Now, let's look at 5 different cases, 5 different clinical scenarios. So this is the first patient. So you're seeing here a translucent grayish area. This is a case of pre-leukoplakia. This is usually seen in smokers. So if you identify a case at this stage, you advise stoppage of habit, control all the predisposing factors, advise periodic review. You do not require a biopsy here. And if the patient discontinues the habit, the mucosa will be able to revert back to normalcy. The second case is a case of homogeneous leukoplakia. You can see a white lesion over here. Now the question is, where do we take a biopsy from? You need to take a biopsy, of course, but where do we take a biopsy is? So here you need to look at the more advanced stage. If you remember that diagrammatic representation I've shown you, you know that wherever there is granularity, wherever there is raised area is the most advanced stage here. So you need to take a biopsy from this area. Okay, this is the ideal site for biopsy. Now, going back to the case which I projected initially, here it's a red and white area. So where do we take a biopsy from in this case? In lichen planus, you remember, we avoided red lesion, red areas, and we wanted only the reticular region for correct diagnosis. Now, where will we take a biopsy from? So if you remember again, if you go back to that diagrammatic representation, you know that in the malignant transformation, in the case of leukoplakia, during the malignant transformation, the redness represent the most advanced stage. So here you need to take a biopsy from the red area. In this situation, when there is involvement of the multiple areas, extensive involvement is there, you cannot restrict with a single biopsy. Because if you take a biopsy from here, and if it shows a mild dysplasia, it doesn't mean that throughout it's mild dysplasia. There are areas which might show proper invasion. So in such cases, you have to take biopsy from the multiple areas, and biopsy is taken to identify the dysplasia, to grade the dysplasia, and to demonstrate invasion, if at all any. So always include both white areas and red areas. Now coming to the fifth situation, clinical scenario, it's a completely red areas, right? So where do we take a biopsy from? Here again, erythroplakia, most of the cases turns out to be histopathologically squamous cell carcinoma. So you might either see severe dysplasia or sometimes squamous cell carcinoma. So again, we do not know which area is more advancing in this region, at most advanced stage in this region, in this area. So you need to take multiple biopsies. So most cases which are provisionally diagnosis erythroplakia on histopathological examination turns out to be squamous cell carcinoma. So you need to take multiple areas for biopsy. Now coming to squamous cell carcinoma. Squamous cell carcinoma can present in a different form, in different forms. Like it might look very nauseous in some cases. This looks like a leukoplakia only, but if you take a biopsy, sometimes it turns out to be squamous cell carcinoma. So you have to be very careful with this. And patients also they have not asymptomatic. Okay, so present as ulcer or sometimes as pregnancy, but this often there will be a tooth adjacent to this. We might advise that this is a trauma. You can nothing to worry about. You can see the screen, right?
ആയിട്ടില്ല മാം, ഷെയറിംഗ് ആയിട്ടില്ല.
Oh no, second. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
For exfoliating cytology, you do not require what you need is just a cell harvesting instrument, a wooden spatula, and cytologic fixative. Cytologic fixative is usually ethanol. Sprays fixative are also available. Now, I'll show you a demonstration of exfoliative cytology in a patient who had come to us recently So she was a 53-year-old female patient who reported to us with a non-healing ulcer on the lateral border of the tongue, and there was a history of trauma. So I think I'll take some time, 1 second, to share the. The video. Sorry? Connection പോയോ?
ഇപ്പം ഓക്കെയാണ് ഡോക്ടറെ, കുഴപ്പമില്ല.
I'll share once again. Let me check. കണ്ണനൊന്ന് വിളിക്കാൻ ചേട്ടാ. കണക്ട് ആവുന്നത് ലാപ്ടോപ്പ്
ഇപ്പം സ്ക്രീൻ ഷെയറിംഗ് ഇല്ലെന്നുള്ളതേ ഉള്ളൂ, മാഡത്തിനെ കാണാം.
അതെയോ? ഓക്കെ, ഫൈൻ ഫൈൻ ഫൈൻ. ഐ വിൽ ഷെയർ ദി സ്ക്രീൻ നൗ. എടാ മോനെ, ഇതെവിടെ വീഡിയോ എവിടെ? Where is it? ഇത് കണക്ട് ചെയ്തതാ മൊബൈലിന്റെ. Okay, fine. I think it's there. Yeah. Connect ആയിട്ടില്ല അല്ലേ? Connection issue ആണ്.
സ്ക്രീൻ ഷെയർ ആയിട്ടുണ്ട്.
Okay, there's some connectivity issue here. Smart.
The video.
Video and video ഇതിലുള്ളത് share ചെയ്യും.
Mobile number share.
The mobile should be visible on the screen.
Okay, Miracast. Cast ചെയ്യണം.
The Chromecast.
Show.
So I think the range light. We have tried it before.
It's directly. It's directly.
Should I use it? No.
Cancel.
This is smart view. Come on. Take smart. Connect. I'm sorry, it's getting delayed, I think.
Hey, that's okay, doctor, no problem.
No issue, ma'am.
Connectivity show now. Some problem with the mobile connectivity here. Or else, can I continue with my presentation? Finish it?
I think that will be fine, more better. And later, if the screen sharing starts, we'll continue.
Yeah. Yes. I'll show it again. You try it. But I don't want to try it. Be here.
ഇപ്പം സൗണ്ടും പോയെന്നാ തോന്നുന്നത് സ്നിഗ്ധ.
സ്റ്റക്ക് ആയെന്ന് തോന്നല്ലേ?
ഹാങ് ആയെന്നാ തോന്നുന്നത്.
ചിലപ്പം വീഡിയോ ഓഫ് ചെയ്താൽ കുറച്ച് ബെറ്റർ ആയിരിക്കും.
എന്താ മാഡത്തിനോടൊന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാലോ? മാഡത്തിന് കേൾക്കാൻ പറ്റുമോ നമ്മൾ പറയണത്?
1 second. I think എന്താ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്?
മാം, ചിലപ്പോഴേ നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ഇഷ്യൂ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ വീഡിയോ ഒന്ന് ഓഫ് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ സൗണ്ട് ചിലപ്പം കറക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് വരും. ഇപ്പം സൗണ്ടും ബ്രേക്ക് ആവുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അയ്യോ പോയി. ഇല്ല.
Unmute, madam, please.
Yes. I think I'll continue with the presentation till then.
Yes, ma'am. Now we can see you as your screen as well as your voice. Thank you.
Okay, fine. It's coming. And that's പറ്റുന്നില്ല. Okay, let me continue. ഒന്ന് try ചെയ്തു. No. It's coming.
Yeah, screen sharing is done, ma'am.
Yeah, 1 second.
Ma'am,
It's not coming. Okay, fine.
നെറ്റ്വർക്കിന് ഇഷ്യൂ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിലേ മാമിന്റെ വീഡിയോ ഓഫ് ചെയ്താൽ ചിലപ്പോൾ കുറച്ചും കൂടെ ബെറ്റർ ആയിരിക്കും. എന്നുവെച്ചാൽ നേരത്തെ സൗണ്ട് സ്റ്റക്ക് ആവുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു.
Okay. Why is it coming? Go back to Zoom. Share screen once again. I'll share screen once. From current slide. Okay, you can see my screen now.
Yes, doctor. Yeah.
You can see my screen.
Yes, doctor, we can see. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So I think video, there's some problem. Might be because the connectivity is low. So now, once you take the cytology smear, you take a smear from the, scrape the base of the ulcer and spread it on a slide, put it in a fixative and send it to the lab. In the lab, we'll do the staining process, and this is what we will see in the slide. Here you can see these are the epithelial cells. These are the cells which we could harvest from the lesion. And if you look at it, it looks isomorphic. That means all are of the same size and shape. And if you look at the nuclear cytoplasmic ratio, it is somewhere around 1:10. And this is a H&E stain section. And here you have the pap smear. In the pap smear, the advantage with the pap smear, the stain is the Papanicolaou. The advantage here is that you will be able to differentiate different layers of cells. Like the basal cells will be stained blue in color, and superficial cell will be stained pink in color, and the most superficial area, highly keratin-rich area, will be stained orange in color. So that is in the case of normal smear, if the mucosa is normal. Now, in the case of malignancy, this is a unstained, so this is the unstained smear. You can make out the pleomorphism. This is what is pleomorphism. We say that there is a difference in the size and shape of the nuclei and cytoplasm. So you can make out that they are not uniform, right? And the nuclear cytoplasmic ratio also, you can see that there is a increase in the size of the nucleus at the expense of the cytoplasm. So this is a malignant lesion. This smear is from the malignant lesion. This is actually unstained smear. Here in the stained smear, you'll be able to make out the atypia, cellular atypia, and you can also see the cytoplasm in different colors. As I said before, the blue color indicates basal layer, and the orange color indicates the superficial layer. So if you do a cytologic smear, if you're able to get something like this, you can confirm it is a malignancy. But the problem is, if you get a negative stain, if the cells appear normal, you can't be very sure that this is malignancy or not. So false negativity is very high with this test. So it's usually used as an adjunct, and always exfoliative cytology need to be followed by a biopsy for confirmation. Now coming to the swellings. So let's look at a few lesions where you can do the biopsy in general dental practice. Tumors of the epithelial origin, as I said before, all these tumors will show papillary surface. Okay, you can see the finger-like projection on the surface. Examples are papilloma, verruca vulgaris, condyloma acuminatum. All these cases, they are seen as a exophytic lesion with a peduncle. So it's easy and very small also, so you can easily excise it. So always remember that whatever specimen you excise, even if it is a periapical granuloma, please submit it for histopathological examination. I'm telling this because we had a few situations where a small gingival lesion, which appeared to be a pyogenic granuloma, turned out to be a metastatic tumor. It could be a tumor from kidney, it could be a tumor from lung, it could be a tumor from ovary. Patient might not be aware of it, aware of a growth which is occurring in his body. but it will manifest as a small swelling in the gingiva, and your diagnosis will be pyogenic granuloma, and you throw it off. But it might turn out to be a metastatic tumor also. So metastatic tumors sometimes can present as a small swelling, and you will be the one who will be diagnosing it as renal carcinoma or whatever. So make it a habit to send whatever specimen you take, you get in your clinic, please send it for histopathological examination. Now coming to the connective tissue tumor, these were the connective tissue tumors which we talked about before. As I said, the surface will be smooth. Unlike epithelial tumors where you see the papillary projection, here the surface will be smooth, and small swellings, you can easily do a biopsy. Now, when you come across lesions like this, you need to be a little more careful, like vascular tumors. Vascular tumors will be seen as a red or bluish lesion, and there are certain features which will help you to diagnose vascular tumors: bleeding, bruit, blanching. All this will tell you that this could be a vascular tumor. And vascular tumor, without knowing it's a vascular tumor, if you try to excise, it might be problematic, because there might be excessive bleeding. If you're confident that you can control the bleeding, go ahead, no issues. But if you are not, please refer the case to a specialist. Similarly, squamous cell carcinoma and fibrosarcoma, or any malignancy for that matter, if you are confident enough, you can go ahead, but otherwise refer to the specialist. Now, a few words about biopsy. Biopsy, actually, I'm not the right person to talk about the procedures and technical aspect of the biopsy. I can only tell you the pathologist perspective. So biopsy is of two types, excisional and incisional. The word biopsy means removal of tissue from the living body for microscopic examination. If the lesion is less than 1 centimeter in diameter, you can go ahead with excisional biopsy. If it is greater than 1 centimeter, you can do an incisional biopsy. Incisional biopsy means you take a representative tissue from the area and submit it for the histopathological examination, and treatment or excision can be done later once the diagnosis is confirmed. So in the case of incisional biopsy, the tissue to be removed should be in the form of a wedge. This wedge-shaped tissue will help us to see a larger area, and it also is very helpful for once the tissue is removed, you can approximate the tissue better, and that will help in good healing. And always, it's better to have narrow and deep specimen than a broad and shallow one. So always go for a deeper specimen, because you will be able to see more deeper areas, and if you go for a wider biopsy, the approximation will be difficult and healing also will be affected. And in the case of epithelial lesion, always try to include the adjacent normal mucosa also. Okay, so you have to include, because especially in the case of squamous cell carcinoma, we need to know how the adjacent area is, normal area is, and the area of invasion. All this we need to know. So you need to take biopsy from the periphery, including the little bit of the normal tissue. And biopsy should be at least 4 to 5 millimeter in diameter and in depth. Now, for excisional biopsy, when you are removing the lesion as a whole, an elliptical incision at least 3 millimeter away from the lesion is required. And the incision made should be deep enough to remove the entire lesion. And incisions are made convergent to the depth of the wound. It should be converging. Biopsy demo also, I don't think it will be possible. Can I skip it? Can I skip it?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Now coming to handling of biopsy specimen. So once a specimen, biopsy specimen is removed, before it reaches the lab, you need to take care of certain things. You need to wash the specimen in normal saline. This washing is done to remove the blood. Otherwise, the blood also will get fixed, and sometimes it might interfere with our diagnosis. Then, if at all you need to know the margins, please mark the margins with a suture thread or by inking. Then fix it in 10% formalin immediately, and properly label the container. And specimen care, specimen should be placed in a wide mouth container. This is important because sometimes say we put the specimen in the LA bottles, but the problem is once you put it in the LA bottle, once you put the specimen in the formalin for some time, it swells up. So it will be difficult for us to remove it. And there were situations where we really had to break open the bottle. And the volume of formalin should be 10 times the volume of the specimen. And saline is never an alternative for formalin, and separate bottles need to be used, indicating the sites if multiple biopsies are done. Can you hear me? I'm not sure whether you're hearing me or not.
Yes, doctor, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay. Then the container has to be properly labeled with patient's name, gender, and site, and always pre-arrange a connection with the pathology examination center. And the specimen should be followed along with the specimen, you need to submit a request form giving the clinical details, a little bit of the clinical details, because always it might not be possible to diagnose based on the microscopy alone. You need some clinical information also, and please provide the details in the request form. So to conclude, biopsy of small mucosal lesion is a simple procedure which can be carried out in our dental clinics. Biopsy from the right side done in a right way is crucial for an accurate microscopic diagnosis. And the selection of right side for the biopsy is purely based on your clinical judgment. So your clinical judgment matters. So in your journey forward, we are always there at your service. You can contact us at oralpathology@aims.amrita.edu. Thank you all for your patient listening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
I
madam.
guess there are some queries. Dr. Deepak, will you be taking them?
I'm sorry about this video. I'm really sorry.
Shall I read out the queries?
Yeah.
Will the white lesion due to trauma regress once trauma is relieved? Dr.
Yes.
Elsa Malesh.
Definitely. If the trauma is relieved, it will definitely go back to its normal form. It becomes normal. It might take around 2 weeks or so. It will revert back to the normalcy.
Ma'am, would like to know the reason to take biopsy from the whitest of white lesion.
In the case of candida, okay, fine. In hypertrophic chronic hyperplastic candidiasis, the chances of you getting more of fungal hyphae is the white area. Okay, wherever you are seeing more white area, that means the fungal colony is accumulating over there. So the idea is you take from an area where you get more of fungal colonies. You'll be able to demonstrate the fungi in the tissue sections better. Am I clear?
I think there are no more questions.
There are 2 more questions are there. I mean, I didn't get that. One is similar lesions like Fordyce granules.
Yes.
Similar lesions like Fordyce granules.
I didn't get the question. Similar.
I mean, only one statement is the similar lesions like Fordyce granules question mark. That's it.
So what is the question in this? I didn't get the question.
I guess it's the follow for the, I mean, the previous one, the white lesion due to trauma regress once trauma is relieved. Similar lesions like, I think it's like that. Even I'm not sure.
Fordyce granules are actually ectopic sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands are present normally in the skin. They are not usually seen in the mucosa. But if it occurs in mucosa, it might present as small granular yellowish granules on the mucosa. But the problem here is patient might be sometimes worried. People are, especially in Kerala, people are more aware about oral cancer and such things. So they might come and ask you tomorrow, like, is it a cancer? So you should be able to tell them that this is nothing to worry. This is a normal variation. That's all. So these are basically sebaceous glands which are ectopically placed in the oral cavity.
Madam, one more question was there. Any other alternative to formalin?
Alternative to formalin. Or when you have the best thing with you, why do you go for an alternative? That is my. The thing is that best fixative is alternative for formalin. You have quite a lot of other fixatives also, but this is a cheaper and best possible one. Because maybe because in some clinics formalin might not be available, people used to put it in saline and give. The problem here is that the morphology of the cells will be altered. If you put in saline, the morphology will be altered, and sometimes it might resemble a malignant lesion also. You might see the dysplasia and large nuclei, the cell will swell up. So it will be very difficult for us to say that this is a normal tissue or a pathology. So formalin is ideal. Any more questions?
Yes, ma'am. The site, one second. Biopsy site for vesiculobullous lesions.
Biopsy site for vesiculobullous lesions. Ideally, vesiculobullous lesion, you can either take a smear or a biopsy. So in this smear, when you're taking a smear, you need to take smear from the floor of the vesicle. You can either take from the vesicle, which is already there, or you can, by applying pressure, you can create a vesicle and take it. And for biopsy, the ideal site is adjacent to the vesicle, area adjacent to the vesicle. Because basically in vesiculobullous lesion, mainly the pemphigus, it's an autoimmune disease, and there is acantholysis. So if you need to demonstrate that, it's better to take from the adjacent normal area.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I think there are no more questions, sir. Sunil, sir, shall we conclude?
Yes. Okay, we can conclude. I request Dr. Deepak to conclude the CD program.
On behalf of IDEA Smart City, I thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful session. It was really a useful session for all of us, because there are a lot of students also who are attending from Amrita Dental College, and also from Royal, there are many students. From Anu Dental College also, there are a lot of students. So I think it might have been useful to everyone, those who have attended this session. So, and we are happy that this is our first CD, and one of our member itself is presenting the first session, means it's a great news for all of us. And we also had a very good strength for the CD. Lot of students and a lot of practitioners have attended this session. So once again, on behalf of IDEA Smart City, I really acknowledge you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is in fact a wonderful opportunity for me also. Thank you so much, Dr. Sunil and Dr. Deepak. And
I think
all
Dr.
the
Rakesh can add a few words. And there is also, it is also written that students from, or doctors from Pushpagiri are also attending it.
One more thing is that we also would like to thank the MedViper Technology, including Ms. Nikta, who has assisted us and helped us in conducting the CD program. Thank you, Nikta, ma'am.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you, doctor.
Nikta and Saumya. You forgot Saumya's name.
Both of us are here.
Yeah. Sorry.
Rakesh, can you put in a few words?
Yeah, Dr. Sunil, actually, Dr. Mahija has spoken everything about the subject. So I think I will just add 1 or 2 lines about the importance of today. I think when we first discussed about this CD 1 month back, I was telling you about the National Oral Pathologists Day. So from last year, our association started observing 25th February as National Oral Pathologist Day. So this is in memory of one of the pioneer leaders in oral pathology in India, Dr. H.M. Dholakia. Actually, last year when we started observing this day, he was very much with us in Mumbai. He was the first oral pathologist to start an MDS course in India in 1960 at Nair Dental College, Mumbai. So it took 60 long years up to 2020 for us to recognize this great man. But anyway, better late than never. So I think it is really a matter of pride for our department in Amrita School of Dentistry that one of our own faculty members and a member of the IDA Smart City, an oral pathologist, got a chance to present an awareness talk about the importance of our specialty in clinical practice. So thank you, Dr. Sunil, Dr. Deepak, and we are really obliged. Thank you.
Thank you, Rakesh sir.
Dr.
Thank you
Rakesh,
so much.
sir. Actually, it was a new information and we didn't know like the history of the special day. Thank you for explaining it. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Mahija.
Thank you.
A happy birthday to you, Dr. Rakesh.
Thank you, thank you, thank you,
Happy birthday,
Sunil. It gives me, actually, it's a wonderful feeling for me. So I'm really blessed. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then thank you, ma'am. See
Thank you,
later.
thank you, Snigdha.
Okay, sure. I didn't get, I think it was Dr. Ragesh's birthday today. I missed out that
Yes,
part.
yes, it was Dr. Snigdha, was it audible? Was there any issue? I was not very sure of it.
No, you
No,
were
actually-
very audible, Mahija. It was,
I was very
Okay.
audible.
except for the
Okay.
video part, everything else went on very well.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And Dr. Ragesh, happy birthday from our end also.
Thank you, Snigdha. Thank you so much.
I
Thank
couldn't
you.
switch on my camera. Some issues with my video.
Yeah,
I
yeah, no
can't see the
problem. Thank
face.
you so much for the wishes. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. Okay, good night, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Good night, good night.
Okay, sure. Yeah.